So there have been many partnerships. Tell me a bit about yours, particularly it being perhaps a father and son partnership.
Well, it evolved in parallel with the album evolving. Our partnership evolved, and we gravitated towards roles that would be productive in a partnership. Tom picked up an accordion fairly early on, and we played a few songs together and recorded them and put them out on an album called Brain of Leaves, which is an album that if we were to record it again today would sound a bit more professional and proficient.
But also it would sound a lot more collaborative.
Yeah,
I think that
yeah, it's true. It's true.
I mean, because
what's the difference?
I picked up the accordion, and at that time, music was still relatively new to me. I mean, I dabbled in drums, and there was a lot of piano on Brain of Leaves as well, but it was very much Dad leading the way. It was very much, you know, not only did he write the songs but led the songs, and I think things were very much in his vision, and as we progressed our partnership, I gradually started to squeeze more control out of it.
Well, and it's why the Only Human Circus is so much better an album, because Tom has a set of talents and a set of perspectives that he was able to bring to it, and so we got two people's talent instead of just one.
And whose vision is this?
What, the circus?
The circus.
I think it's more yours than it is.
It probably is. It probably is slightly more mine, because there are older songs in it that, when we play under the guise of, you know, the Only Human Circus, are very different in terms of arrangement to the way that they have been done so before. I think I tried to guide a lot of the writing and shaping the story. And I think it was generally about me personally taking the responsibility of saying, okay, well, I'm going to step up and be a producer now. I'm going to step up and take a different responsibility. And that meant that I was able to learn a lot, but also kind of take a bit more control, a bit more ownership over it, and start to balance out that collaboration.
There are similarities between the way we work and the way that Ezra Pound worked with T.S. Eliot on The Wasteland. When Eliot wrote The Wasteland originally, it was much, much longer than the original, the published version. And it was called He Do the Police in Different Voices, which is a line from Dickens. And Ezra Pound came in and cut it back dramatically, and his guiding ethos was make it new, and he drew out what is now, whatever narrative there is, the themes that there are there were solidified and focused by Ezra Pound, and in some respects
Thomas Ezra.
That's what Tom did. Not that he's mad fascist living in an Italian tower, and not that I'm a banker in a four-piece suit, as Virginia Woolf said. But there were some similarities, in as much as there is the production of a large amount of material that is haphazardly around a basic theme, and then Michelangelo chips away at the marble and reveals the angel.
Right.
It's not quite as extreme as that, because it is a collaborative affair. But if I had been left to make this album on my own, I wouldn't have had a story.
Right.
I wouldn't have had those characters necessarily, at least not consistently through the whole thing. I would have fretted over which songs to leave in and which songs to leave out, and that was taken away by dint of having a story.
Right.
So a lot of the production approaches were very practical. You know, they were vehicles to getting the job done. Yeah.
Because you already had a script.
Yeah, precisely.
I think I see it slightly more humbling than that. It's Laurel and Hardy, because you being you know, Oliver Hardy, going around, you know, making all the fuss and causing all the chaos and doing this and that, and then there's, you know, little old Stan Laurel,
who did actually write all the scripts.
Oh well, okay, maybe it's slightly different. Maybe it's slightly different.
It's a good analogy.
But I think that, you know, there's something to be said for kind of just saying to Hardy over here, just come back for a bit and let's just regroup. And
so how did you deal with disputes, Tom? How did you deal with that?
I don't know.
Your father and the writer of all the songs.
Yeah, I don't know how many there were really. I mean, there must have been quite a few here and there, but I don't kind of remember them.
I spent endless nights grieving in my room. Yeah. I
chose to ignore the sobs.
I was a model of grace and dignity throughout.
Yeah. No, I think that there was. I mean, Dad's he's got an energy when it comes to music that's not often paralleled, and I think that his kind of lust to get stuff done and get stuff written and his enthusiasm, and I think most conflict came from not only me being very busy outside of our music, but also me making sure that we took a lot of time over the music and made sure that the story was right and made sure that the story was true, and then that each arrangement was true to that story and so on. I think it just meant that he was probably just going, oh, let's get on with it, let's get on with it, and I was just going, oh, let's just calm down. And I think that was probably the most amount of conflict.
And how different is the story that we've ended up with from the one you had in mind at the beginning?
Well, I suppose there are a lot of similar themes. I mean, right at the beginning, it was going to be a Brechtian musical. It was going to be a kind of sweeping, epic story about three people who were travelling towards Paris as part of this circus, and the girl was going to be led astray by the kind of shining lights of Paris, and that kind of almost love story that follows. And that stayed true. I think that the kind of idea of staging it as a musical was a lot more prominent earlier on in the process, and so when we kind of decided that it would be more of a CD, more of just an album, some of the story elements slightly changed so that you know, we could fit certain songs in. I don't think it's necessarily changed a great deal. I think my vision was to have it as this grand Brechtian piece and an epic, and I think there are certain elements of that, although it's a little bit more reserved than that.
Yeah, it seems to me to have all the tent poles in, that it could grow you know, rather a lot, and I can imagine it on stage. I mean, do you have a view that this will go into a full-length production?
I don't know. I don't think we've ever really fully realised those thoughts. I think it's always been on the periphery. It's always been something that we've thought about and quite like the idea of, but it's about, I suppose it's about time, and I suppose it's about putting in the significant amount of prep and work that it would take to not just create a script in between these songs, but expand the songs over
I think that's it. I think that we created an album, and there was a point at which we decided that this was going to be a CD, or what I think of as an LP. Yeah. And that is a different format to any kind of stage production. So we made that decision not on any kind of principled basis, but as a purely pragmatic of what we could do. So I think both of us are open to a producer with a musical director coming along and talking to us about staging this. I just don't think we've got the time or necessarily the experience and expertise to do it ourselves. Maybe one day in the future we might do that, but we had a lot of fun writing it and playing it and arranging it, and we like doing that. So we're already at a fairly advanced stage with the next one.
Yeah, I think that I mean, this is our kind of second collaboration if you consider Brain of Leaves, and it's still, you know, I'd only say about 5 years into a kind of relationship, and I can imagine that when I finish university, when I've kind of grown up, there might be a possibility for me to be able to engage in some more theatrical work, possibly within my own company. And if that is the case, then if I happen to look back and say, oh, I remember those songs really fondly, there should be something there, then maybe I can create something in the future. But I think it is a future thing. I think what we've done now is we've kind of not resigned ourselves to the fact, but have been quite happy to say that is that project, and now we're going to move on.